Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law, here in East Texas. And we have with us tonight one of our outstanding authors, Joanne Kukanza Easley. She has a new book. Here it is, Just One Look. And this is your third one in the second, and you've got a third one that's going to be coming up. Yes.
Right.
And they all have these beautiful impressionistic covers, and I love them because it automatically, to me, brands, this is your look. It's like Pat Conroy. All of his books, he has the same artist who paints the same theme, and you always know it's a Pat Conroy book. And I like that. I think it's great. So we're really excited you're here. As we begin tonight, hopefully some more will be jumping on board, but if not, we're recording it. We'll put it up on YouTube. But what I want just to begin with is, Joanne, I want your backstory. Everybody always loves to know, is this your full-time job? Do you have other jobs? What's your family do? Just tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid, and I've always been an avid reader. I got a library card as soon as I could sign my name. And then when I was like a preteen, I would steal my mother's books and read them, the adult books that she took out of the library. So I love story. I wanted to tell stories. And my dad was a very, very verbal storyteller. And I think I got my reading from my mother and my storytelling from my dad. And starting in my 20s, I took a lot of classes, joined writers groups, went to conferences, and started working on my craft. I married and moved and divorced and moved and had kids and moved and changed careers to because I'd been a stay-at-home mom and a corporate wife for a while. And then I went back to school because I no longer wanted to teach, and I became a registered nurse. And during those years, I worked in the operating room. And since it was a second career, I wasn't young anymore. And that's a very physical job. So I left that and went into psych nursing, which is a different kind of stress, but very interesting. And I haven't used any of the patients or anything like that in my writing, but I've used the psychological principles in my writing. My work is character driven. I delve into very complicated women who go through difficult experiences in their life and eventually emerge on the other side. So it's a positive message, but I put them through the ringer. I'll say that. And I had a novel in the 90s that had a little bit of interest, but I moved again. So that went in a drawer, and that was before computers. So I have to take that one out and revise it. It's almost ready to go. So once I retired from nursing, I said, this is it. I want to get published. And I had enough of an ego to want to be traditionally published. So I tried for a year to find an agent, to no avail. I really didn't have much interest. And then I started querying small presses. And immediately I had interest from 4. And by that time, I needed the validation, believe me, after all that rejection. So I signed on with a small press, who's my publisher right now for my books.
Well, most of the authors, I think we're about maybe even over 50-50 on small presses, independent publishing, self-publishing now. Used to be every one of our books was a major publishing house, but it's wild, wild west right now. People, even the big guys, are breaking out and going and self-publishing. But, you know, I look for a good story. I don't care who publishes it, and I don't even care when it came out. I know a lot of publishers go, well, you need to pick a book within the first window of, of publicity, which is 3 weeks now. And I go, the problem with that is I pick my books about a year in advance, and they don't get me the books. I mean, I have publishers email me, could you have so-and-so author this summer? I go, I've already got the authors already booked for the summer. So it just, and so I have to explain to them, but the old publishing model just doesn't work for anybody anymore. We can't wait. I mean, they're still publishing books the same way they did in Charles Dickens' time. But the difference is now, a book, if it doesn't come out of the chute where you sell 100,000 copies, then you're done. And trying to get a second book sold is even harder than it used to be, because you've got, and so that's why a lot of people change their author names. So, or they change genres and write in a different thing. But that is all interesting to know. So do you feel like you have finally made it with your books, or do you feel like you're still struggling, or what's your?
Well, it's very hard to get noticed. I was very lucky with my first book that I won 12 awards for Sweet
Yeah,
Jane.
you're winning a lot of awards. Yeah.
And it was the Texas 2020 adult fiction winner at the Indie Author Project. It was a finalist in the Sarton Award. It was a finalist at Eric Hoffer. So I had and a lot of those little minor awards that are kind of like ego strokes that aren't as prestigious. So I had really good luck with that, and I have some recognition for Just One Look. I've had people ask me about a sequel to Just One Look, but my heart is in Texas. I was born in Chicago, and I had to do a Chicago book.
Yeah.
And Just One Look is set in my old neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I use it as the model. I use my family as a model. There were 4 kids in my family, 2 boys and 2 girls, but I've told my sister repeatedly, she is not Paige. She is not Paige. And I'm still in touch with some kids that I grew up with, and they were just really excited about reading about the old neighborhood.
Did any of them think that they were in the book?
Well, I think everybody thinks they're in the book.
Yeah. And that people will get mad at you if they read a character they don't like and they think it's them, they'll get mad. Or they'll get mad if you're not in the book. I mean, the first thing that happened to me when I went home is my best friend's husband, who I also went to school with, he goes, "Am I in your book?" I go, "No, no, it's about my book club." He goes, "Well, I know Heidi's in it, I said, "Yeah, Heidi's in it because she's in my book club." So, but he was like kind of put out that I didn't put him in the book. But that's just the way it goes. So you are working full-time writing on the books, and what's your process? How does this usually play out for you each day? Now I see you're on social media, man. I share every time I see you on Twitter or all the other ones, and you're spending the time getting your book out.
I am, and I wish I could spend less time.
Me
and
too.
I'm working on ways to streamline what I do. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and it's hard to keep up with that. I'd like more writing time, and I've got to discipline myself. My 3rd book is finished, but it's in revisions now. I've had it through beta readers, and I've had some really good input, and it should be done and out by October. And I have decided to start my own press, and I'm getting the rights back to Sweet Jane and Just One Look in September, and I'll be re-releasing them, and my 3rd book at the same time.
Well, I did the same thing. When the publisher took my book out of print, I said, "Why are you taking it out of print?" I go, "That's the first book everybody in my book club is supposed to read, and every time a new member joins, what am I supposed to do?" Well, they took it out of print without telling me. So my agent got me all the rights back, but they wouldn't give me the file. So I had to have it all formatted, and I just published it myself. And I have to tell you though, it's really hard unless I'm out with it. It's the sales are dismal. It's really sad. I think everybody that's a new member should buy it and read it, but they don't. I guess I think they know the story. So I go, "Well, you really need to read it, because I think if you read the story," and then I've got another one that I've been holding on to it until I want to get out with the book because I saw how hard it was to promote everybody's books during COVID. It was hard. And Mandy and I just keep coming up with more and more ideas on how we can get our authors out there. And the Reading Nation magazine is just explosive. I mean, last count was 96,000 readers. I'm just going, wow, Mandy. She goes, I work on it day and night. And that's what you have to do. But we had just had Pamela Bennings-Ewan on, and she hires somebody to do all her social media.
Well, I'm not in that
How much
position.
that costs?
I don't know. I really don't
They
know.
do a fantastic job. But
Well, yeah, that won't be me. I'll be doing it myself.
I still do me and everybody that's under the Pulpwood Queen umbrella, myself, because that's just what I do. I mean, that's what I've always done. So, well, exciting. Have you got a name for your publishing house?
Red Boots Press.
Red Boots. Oh, you got that Texas thing going. So that's cute.
Well,
yeah.
Jane in her red boots.
Yep.
And they'll be making an appearance in my new book as well.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, we wish you well. And I think the more control you have with your own books, the only person you can blame if it isn't successful is yourself. And you just people are all just competing with themselves. We're not competing with each other. So how does your family fit into all of this? I mean, your children are grown or?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Grown, and they don't live near me, which is unfortunate in one way because my younger son is expecting a baby in July.
Oh.
I didn't think I'd ever be a grandma, but I'm going to be a grandma.
Yep.
And he lives in Florida, and my other son lives in St. Louis.
Oh.
So we're spread out. We don't see each other that often.
Those are neat places, but yeah, that's pretty spread out. But yeah, I've got him. Both my girls are in Texas, but one's an hour away, another one's 4. So, and that's the one that just had the grandson. I was kind of like you. I didn't think I was going to have a grandchild, and now I just miss him. He's coming in though this month sometime. So
that's nice. Yeah, and then my husband is retired as well, but he has so many hobbies and interests. He's got to maintain our little ranch for one thing, and then he's teaching himself to play the guitar, slow blues on the old Fender Stratocaster type guitar. Yeah, and he does ham radio and he does reloading. So he's got. I was worried that when he retired that he'd be around
I think we all worry about
but
that.
he's not at all. My biggest responsibility is 3 little dogs, 3 little rescue dogs, and they are absolutely precious. Usually when I'm in my office working, they're on the bed behind me and I say, let's go to work, and they'll come and go to work with me. And I heard them sniffing at the door because I've got it closed now.
My little cat heard me talking and she jumped up on my lap, and I said, no, not now. It's too hard to have your tail flying up in my face while I'm talking. But they'll be away from me until I get talking, and then because I don't talk at home. I don't know about you guys, but people go, oh, you're such a talker. I don't talk all day. I'll just say, you want to go out? And they'll go, yeah, and I'll let them out. So that's about it. Yeah.
I'll tell you.
I talk constantly to my dogs.
Joanne is the hardest working author I have ever met. She goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And, even before I knew her, we have mutual friend, and he told me that Joanne, this Joanne writer, Joanne is a, what do you call it? Marketing, whatever, chief or whatever. I mean, he had a name for it. So I heard about Joanne before I met her. We met each other way later.
At one of the Writers League of Texas write-ins.
Was it?
Yeah, I met you at, I think it was at Lake Hills Library, and then at Medina Library, you
Oh,
came
yeah,
to
yeah,
the-
yeah, yeah. They're Texas Read. The
Are they
program-
back? Are they back having, authors coming out to libraries and doing programs, or is it still in lockdown?
They're starting it again.
They are
They're going to
back.
they're going to be back in Medina again.
I
Yeah.
used to help them in Jefferson. They bring authors into Jefferson, and I'd help them find a bed and breakfast. And
Yeah,
they,
that's a great program they have.
Yes, it is.
It's
I
free for
spoke there
authors.
twice. It's fun.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I love them. Yeah, they're
And they
great. And we're
require that
the only state that has that kind of thing, and also agents conference. They have an agents conference every June.
Right. In June,
I've
it's coming
sent
up.
so many authors there that have gotten really great agents. So, yeah. So I always tell, if you don't have an agent, that's the one to go to. And you meet.
yeah, that's coming up. And then they have a retreat. They've had it in
That's right.
Alpine for a while.
Love
And-
Alpine.
Yeah, and they've had it recently. It's
Oh.
been in Kerrville, which is not far from me.
Yeah, Kerrville's not as bad. It's a
Is
long
it-
way to out to Marfin.
It's a beautiful place. Is
It
it a week long? Is it a week long?
I don't think it's maybe 5 days. Yeah, I don't know if they're doing
I
it this
think
year.
it's very reasonable too.
Yes.
They're always very reasonable. Their classes, I think the last one I went to was in,
Yeah, the classes.
they had it at the Wascom, which is just before you cross into the Louisiana line. I went, and 3 or 4 of my Pulpwood Queen authors were presenting. So Lisa Wingate, Judy Christie, and I think, was it Kelly Coates Gilbert? They were all 3 gonna, so I went, and it was really fabulous. Yeah, so. Well, cool. So you write every day. Do you do the social media first, or do you write first?
I do social media throughout the day. I try to do it in dribs and drabs so it doesn't bring me down. Because
You can be
feel like
on
it's-
there 24 hours if you want to. Yeah.
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 And then I go swimming 3 times a week. I have a 25-mile drive to get to the pool. So I'm pretty dedicated. I swim 1.25 miles 3 times a week. And
Good for you.
that takes like half a day. So that's 3 half days. And when I'm swimming, I sometimes get a breakthrough in my book and an insight into the character or the next scene, or I know I have to go back and revise something. And I try to hold on to it until I get out of the pool and get into the locker room so I can jot it down. But I get a lot of my inspiration when I'm swimming because your mind is free.
Swimming is the one sport where you do not stress out your joints. So I highly, I lifeguarded all through high school and college, and it's, I've always swam, but their pool is open. I've got to get there. I haven't been able to get there. It's kind of cold, but I'm ready to go. So good for you. That's great. And so your husband do you take the puppies with you, or they stay home?
Oh, they have to stay home. They're not allowed at the gym. So he has to watch them when I'm gone. Luckily, he likes them too.
Well, that's good. That's really good. And I'm glad you have a little rescue pet. So what is, if you were going to give your advice to, all of us are authors, I learned something from every single author that we have on here. Is there some little trick that you've learned that that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Well, my work is all character driven. So I get to know my author before I even start writing, or my character, I should say, before I even start writing.
Wow.
I create her backstory, her family life. I'll do a family tree. I'll get her description squared away, any little habits, likes and dislikes. I just develop her fully and then live with that and even dream about her or think
Yes.
about questions I would like to ask her. So I have a really solid foundation of a character, and then I have to look for the inciting incident or the kind of situations I'm going to put her in, because they're not going to be pleasant situations quite often. And
But that's the way it is in real life, because
Yes.
I mean, right now it seems like to me it's not just COVID that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the family dynamic of not seeing people and losing friends. I mean, there's so many things all hitting us at once, and it's the isolation's been really hard for me. Thank goodness for Zooms, because this is about all the social interaction until just recently that I've had in 2 years. So I kind of went into author love overload at Girlfriend Weekend. We went a week long. I won't do that again. That was too long. But I really enjoyed it. And every Friday, I remind everybody, if you subscribe, you get a notice. One of those panels posts every Friday. Today it was Tumbleweed Smith, and he was so excited. I emailed him he said, I love it, love it, love it. You know, people say things in threes in East Texas. So that's so fun. But they all will be done, I think, sometime in October. And that's how many we did, one a week.
Yeah.
So I think it was close to 40. So, you know, not quite a year. And then we'll be promoting the next one. But we're working on that now. So you do the character driven things, and you do the outline, you do an outline.
I don't outline until I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book.
Oh,
I just, you know, the pantsers and plotters, I don't plot my book out. I let my character take me there. And she's so real to me and so alive that I have to follow her lead. And sometimes she'll surprise me, and sometimes I'll go down a path and decide, no, that's not right after all, and go in another direction. And then when I get to a certain point, I have to go back and organize everything. I have to make sure that I have all the characters that are in each chapter. I have to, you know, look at the characters' names and develop the secondary characters, and go through kind of a mini process with the important secondary characters as I do for my main character. And then I will outline the action that happens in each chapter and make sure that I'm making a progression of the story.
right.
My first novel, I told it very differently. I started when Jane was a child, and I present everybody that we're going to meet later in the book in the first chapter. And it's from her perspective as a child. And then the next chapter is the current story time of, we go from 1957 to 1984. And she's in
Wow.
Austin, and she's an adult, and she gets the news of her mother's death. And then we go back and see her as a child at 11, at 16, at 20, and all these milestones in her life. So there's like 2 emotional journeys for her as she was growing up. And I tell that in first person to really get in her head. So that was the challenge of writing the character at each age. And then the current story time, I told in third person close, because I wanted a little bit of distance, because she had been in denial her whole life. And now she's faced with some things that she cannot escape. And I wanted to show her emotional journey. Then I tie it up at the end with a first person chapter in current story time. I'm not sure that everybody noticed that, but I did that deliberately to bring home the point that she has integrated her past and her present and looking to the future. So that was a more complicated structure. Just One Look is told chronologically in first person. So I'm very close to this character and take her through her first love, the loss of her love, her denial, and not processing grief at all. And thinking that she is just going to go out and break hearts and stomp on men's hearts because she's been hurt so much that she's not very likable and not very nice. So that was a challenge, writing a character like that. And then she gets her comeuppance when she marries for all the wrong reasons. And as one of my lines was, at 24, she's left a widow with a child, a small fortune, and 2 ghosts. And she has to deal with those ghosts. It takes her years to get over the loss of her first love, and she almost blows her second chance at love because of what she's clinging to in the past, of what might have been and could and obviously wasn't going to happen. So my characters really grow and change over time. And I have certain themes. We visited the 4th of July several times in the book. We visited Christmas several times in the book. And I include her family's journey. Her mother gets a divorce and remarries. Her sister goes out to Hollywood. Her brother goes to become in semi-professional sports, and another brother becomes a musician. So they all have their journeys in the book too.
That's great. And so were some of these based upon your own? You said you had 4 siblings, and so did you pull things from, not, I mean, they're real stories, but I mean, did you pull from that?
Well, I knew the family dynamic. I knew a family dynamic of 4 kids,
Yeah.
2 girls and 2 boys. And that comes into play. The 2 boys, my family called us the girls and the boys, like we were little units and not individuals. But we're all 4 very unique individuals. And
where do you fall in the order?
I'm the eldest child.
Okay, got it. Are you all close in age?
There's 7 years from one to the other. We're all, baby boomers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, your mom was busy.
Yes.
I find that a lot of people of the baby boomer age, because my sister and I are 13 months apart, and I think Susie and Karen are 13 months apart. So at one point we'll be 65, 64, and 63.
Oh,
Pretty crazy. And there would have been a 4th, but my mom miscarried. But can you imagine? I can't. I have 2. No, I can't imagine having 4 kids.
I have 2 as well, and I call them the tired years. And
Yeah,
I remember when my second child came home from the hospital, I must have been in some kind of zombie state, because I came to in the bathroom trying to sort laundry. The laundry was up to my knees, and my husband came in and told, my husband at the time came in and told me he was leaving on a trip for business. And I hadn't slept in I don't know how long. My first child was a good sleeper. My second was, we called him the screamer.
Oh.
And he wanted to be physically active, and he didn't stop screaming until he was able to walk and run around and be physical.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, the tired years. And how do you do it? 2 just about broke me. 4, I can't imagine.
I think back on it now because, well, when I had my 2, I was working full time at Barron's Books as their children's manager, buyer, bookseller. And I also was running a bed and breakfast. And so on the days that I was off, I was doing the bed and breakfast and fixing breakfast for my guests. The first 8 years of my life were just work. I don't remember ever looking up. It was just bath, food, daycare, pick them up from daycare. It was crazy. And, but they were little. So it was, but then when they got to be like toddler age, I said, I can't watch them and tend to the guests. And my husband would always leave, because he didn't want to deal with it either. So, but anyway, I understand completely. I don't know how we did it. And my daughter has 1 and she goes, I'm so tired, Mom. I go, well, believe it or not, when you get 2, you kind of get a little bit of a help because they play with each other. And
yes.
Otherwise you're the constant companion.
Well, my book is set in my neighborhood, which was like a post-war GI Bill neighborhood of little tiny postage stamp lots with little bungalows. And there were about 60 kids on my block.
Yep.
So we were outside all the time.
All the time. Yep.
So Mom didn't have us in the house with her. She was able to have her little coffee clutch in the morning and then do a little ironing in the afternoon, watching the soap operas. And we had to, she had to drag us in the house for dinner, and we ran back outside. And then when the street lights came on, you had to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a school bell my mother used to ring when it get dark, and we'd have run because we knew we were in trouble. But we were out, and I mean, when we were out, we were, 2, 4, and 5, or outside all day. Can you imagine a 2-year-old being outside all day?
Not in today's world.
I was in charge because I was the oldest. So, I had to watch them. And I was always getting in trouble because my little sister was kind of a little hellion, and she was always getting into all kinds of scrapes. And I was blamed. And, I was just a little kid. So, but I wouldn't trade it for the world because we had so much freedom.
We did. It was a great childhood.
Kick the can and freeze tag and chasing lightning bugs and swinging for hours on the swing set and riding our bikes. My kids had that too, but they didn't have as many kids. We lived out, so they didn't have as many kids to run with. So they wanted to be in town because they felt like they were missing out, but they really weren't. They were having fun. But I'm sure everybody that's listening to this knows this, unless you raise your kids in a city. But I have a friend that said that her son, she used to put on he used to get on a bus and go into the city, into New York when he was in grade school. Oh my God, I can't even imagine putting my kid on a bus to go to New York City for the day. But
we used to take the bus downtown. We lived on the southwest side of the city. We take the 79th Street bus to Western Avenue, and then we take the Archer Express down to State Street, 11, 12, 13 years old. And we would go to WLS Music Studios.
That was my favorite radio station out of Chicago, WLS Chicago. Yeah.
And on Saturday mornings, they would have radio stars, singers. I got Frankie Valli's autograph one day.
Oh,
and then I entered a contest, and I won like a little boom box too. Like, they didn't call them boom boxes then. It was like a little radio thing. And we used to go shopping at Charles A. Stevens, where the models bought their clothes. I'd save my money, and we'd go and we'd sit at Woolworths and have macaroni and cheese for lunch. And then we were very sophisticated. I mean, we were 12, 13 years old, and we were just on our own. And I saw my first concert when I was 12. I saw the Rolling Stones. My mother,
gosh, yeah.
He dropped me off at the Airy Crown Theater, and I had tickets for the noon show and the 7 p.m. show, and I stayed there all day by myself. So I don't think you do those things today.
No.
We're in a different world.
That's
why I write my fiction in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I put on there, I guess that your picture was either late 50s or 60s, because I recognize so many things, but some of the things in there were from the 40s, like those curtains. Those curtains look like something from the 40s.
Well, they were in our house in the 50s.
Yeah, well, but some people keep things longer. I mean, we didn't have sofas back then. We had divans. Remember divan? I just think that's hilarious now. And they were like nubbly, and they just had legs.
Tweed, and they were itchy,
nubbly, and they just had legs. They no skirts, no cushions, no pillows, and a coffee table was just a wooden table with like a place to put magazines. The house was very sparse. And I don't know if you can see my house.
It's decorated.
Well, I have paintings right now everywhere, but I just took 35 of them out of here too to take to a gallery. But my mother saw this house, she'd go, holy moly. But there would be nothing on the coffee table, nothing. And
well, Good Housekeeping magazine, maybe.
Yeah, my mother kept Reader's Digest. And
Did you have plastic slip covers?
no, we didn't have.
Oh, you
But my
missed out.
my grandmother did. She still had, when she passed away, the lamps in her living room still had the plastic on them. So when you took them off, they were like brand new.
Brand new lamps. They
Oh,
last forever.
it just cracks me up to this day. They were just look brand new, and the paper was yellow. That's how old they were. But you don't want to take it off; they'll get dirty.
Yeah.
So,
You have to dust them then.
and James, do you remember any of this stuff when you were growing up? Is he still there?
You're muted.
We're
My
talking-
experience was quite different. I grew
Oh,
up
yeah.
in small town North Carolina,
Yeah.
and the big event was going to the Playhouse Theater with 15 cents and doing popcorn and a lollipop and watching the double feature.
Oh
And
my God,
walking
yeah.
across town. And
I was really lucky. My aunt worked the ticket booth at both the Princess Theater and the Highway 54 drive-in. So, but it cost, I think it was 15 cents, and I remember it went up to a quarter. We're like, oh, oh my God.
well, the other big deal for us is we'd walk the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Kessler's trestle, which was really high, and we were always afraid we were going to get caught out there when the train came.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
the third creek ran under the trestle, and a couple of guys and me, we built a raft and floated it, and it sank because all the wood was rotten under the trestle. But no, it's small town life was a lot different from the big cities.
Oh yeah.
Well, we pretended that we had vast areas to explore. If there was a vacant lot, we called it the prairie, and we and the land that the homes were built at was a prairie at one time. So there's snakes and rabbits and turtles and tadpoles, and we would build forts. Then across 79th and Cicero, which is a major city intersection, we had Lost Continent. Lost Continent was a quarter-mile wide and a half a mile long. And it was, there were even fox in there when I was a kid.
Wow.
And right on the edge of Chicago. And my grandmother's home backed up to Lost Continent. And whenever I'd get mad, I'd run away from home. I'd pack my teddy bear in my little red wagon, and I'd get myself across 79th Street and across Cicero and go to my grandma's house to live.
Now, did you call it the Lost Continent? Did all the neighborhood kids call it?
All the kids called it the Lost Continent. And it was the scene of so many adventures. There were big indentations from maybe old trees that had died. And then if it rained, they'd fill with water. And that's where the tadpoles would be. And we'd build a little raft and we would float on there pretending we were Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. It was just the best. And that's a theme that I have in both of my books, that my main characters were both like little tomboys when they were kids, and they would play out in the fields and catch animals and stuff. So that's part of my childhood, and that's something that's really important to me and treasured.
Well, that's, anywhere there's no property, nature takes over, so you can look at Central Park. There's areas in Central Park, I'm sure, that are just, you'll see a fox, or, they've got a whole herd of sheep on in Central Park now too. But that's cool. That's really fun. And you lived right in the city. I mean, there's a million suburbs now of Chicago.
Yes, it was within the city limits, but it was on the very edge of the city.
Wow, I love Chicago. They've got so
the
many
museums. Fabulous
restaurants.
Museums. Yes.
Museums and restaurants and
pizza.
Yes. Oh yeah. And I used to love to go to Book Expo when it was in Chicago, because first thing I'd do is I'd hit the Institute of art. And then there's two little shops across the street that I used to love to go to that have architecture stuff. Oh, it's just so much fun. I just used to love to go to Chicago, but I haven't been
There's-
there.
Yeah, I haven't been back since my folks passed away, but there were great literary resources. There's the off-campus writers workshop in Winnetka. They would meet every week, and for a month they would have a name author come in, and you could submit your work to them and they would review it for you, a few pages. That's where I got a lot of encouragement.
Oh, that's great.
And they would come back for 4 weeks and lecture us, and then read samples of our work and comment and critique. So that was a wonderful resource. And then there's another one in Lake Forest where it was an old estate from someone who had a fortune, and they had a program where artists could come for a
I
residency.
know that
What is
there
the
was
name of it?
controversy about that place, wasn't there?
Is it
Somebody-
Ragsdale?
Ragdale Foundation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there was some controversy about it because somebody was trying to take it. You know, it was a not-for-profit and they did all these wonderful things. But yeah, that's wonderful. And then they have the Natural History Museum, which is a really great natural history museum. There's just so many museums. It's just
Museum of Science and Industry, a wonderful aquarium, and the Art Institute.
the Art
Oh.
Institute is, that's the first place I go, because that was the first time I saw Michelangelo's work and Da Vinci, and of course the Monet's water lilies, you know, in the
Yes.
room. I just stood there and just. it was
My son did I don't know what you would call it, a program at the Art Institute when he was
really,
in high school. And one of the teachers there complained that he never finished his work, which was our experience too. But he got into Cooper Union, so I guess that's okay. And it was free tuition.
that's
Well,
right.
that's
It's
great.
beautiful. He loved it. It's a great
Oh.
experience.
It's one of the best, you know, museums ever. I love it. And I think on Thursdays it's free. So I'd always get in on Thursday, and that's the first place I go is just hang out there. But there's so many things to do there, and fun shopping, and I think that was back when I used to go there. That's when Oprah was doing her show there too. And
Oh, yes.
that was huge.
Yeah. She was on local TV at first and just became such a phenomenon. She was just a local gal
I know.
way back when.
No, I have a question for Joanne,
Yeah.
if you would,
Sure.
if you would share your process or your decision to start your own press. That's really interesting. You published and you're buying back your rights.
I don't have to buy them back.
Oh.
Luckily, I had a contract for 2 years.
Perfect.
And yeah, and then I renewed Sweet Jane for 1 year. So they're both becoming, all the rights come back to me just automatically because my
Okay.
contract will end September 9th. And I have, my DBA has been set up. I've got my business checking. My niece is designing the logo for me, and she's working on my 3rd book cover. So I'll be ready to go and get everything put out in October. I bought book formatting software. Everyone's talking about Vellum being so wonderful, but it's only for Apple, and it's called Atticus. Atticus is book formatting that does Word, and they do a very nice job. You can change, you can customize it with different fonts. You make sure your font is big enough so it's not any tiny. And it will produce a file that can be used for a print book or for an EPUB. And they even connect to Canva for cover design. It's a really, I mean, it's still fairly new and it's a little bit glitchy at times, but I thought it was a good investment.
And that works with Max?
Mac has Vellum,
Oh, Mac has
Vellum, and it's more expensive, Vellum.
Everything's more expensive, Apple.
Yeah, but it does a very nice job. I met a writer at a book conference recently who raved about Vellum, and she showed me her books and how they were laid out and the different options that they had. And I said, oh, but I don't have a Mac, and I'm not going to learn a whole new everything at my age. I don't have the time or the energy. I have my learning curve for all the social media has been hard enough because I didn't know any of it and I didn't want to do it.
Were you able to keep your book covers, or you have to generate?
Oh yes, my niece designed my book covers. I own those. I mean that's mine.
Yeah.
I provided them to my publisher, so
Wow.
he didn't have to design a cover for me. And
So what do you do with distribution? How does that work?
oh, I'm going to have an account at Amazon, an account at Barnes and Noble, and Kobo, and Apple, and Google, and wherever else. And then I'm going to go to Ingram Spark as well.
Yeah, you want to go to Ingram Spark so you really can get distribution. Yeah.
Yes.
That's really important. So,
Ingram Spark or Ingram?
Ingram
Pardon?
Spark.
Ingram Spark is more like self-publishing, isn't it? And Ingram is the distributor.
They print
Ingram Publishing Services. That's what my books are distributed by, my book. And that also connects for libraries. So
Yes.
you want to make sure you get into libraries too.
And yeah, because they can do hardcover, they can do large print.
Oh. So will you be looking for other authors to publish with your press, or are you just going to do your own?
I'm just going to do my own. It's I have been asked by several people, and I go, oh, please, I'd love to help you, but
Yeah.
I don't have the time. I just don't.
I think that's the future. I think everybody's just going to be doing it themselves. And if people were smart in college, they'd have that program, how to publish your own book,
Something practical.
Yeah, because when I went back to college, I've been back and back and back. They don't really teach you practical stuff. They teach you, about art and everything. But it wasn't until my last semester, my senior exhibition, that I learned anything about marketing. Luckily for me, I've been doing this for 22 years, but it's changing daily. And I would like to be able to click one post to go to all social media, but it doesn't really work that way.
Do you know the author Pamela Kelly, who published The Restaurant and the Nantucket Inn? She's been very, very successful, and she spoke to a little group that we have on Facebook about indie publishing, and she's researched everything and decided to go indie from the get-go, and she's been immensely successful. And she was kind enough to share her knowledge with us.
How old is she?
Oh, she's, I don't know, 50, 60?
Listen, you
somewhere in
got a
there.
lot more energy at 50 than you do at 65, let me tell you. I'm starting to slow down. Thankfully, Mandy is 50, so she's got
She's a baby.
She's a baby. She goes, oh, I'm not either. But she's got a lot of energy. And I used to. I mean, everybody goes, oh, you're just so busy. I feel so lazy now because I've always worked 3 or 4 jobs at the same time. So this is like, I'm at home working on my art and the book club and writing. That it's not the same as working jobs.
Yeah.
Being, and having that income coming in. So it's been a real challenge, but well, I'm really excited to read your next book. And, I really love the thing you're putting everything up on the blog. So everybody needs to go to the blog site and let's open it up for questions. I want, I know Eileen spoke. Is there anything you guys want to ask Joanne about anything to do with what she's doing, or any particular question?
Well, Joanne, I know you work very hard. The Black Rose Publishing, or whatever they go by, did they do a lot for you?
No, and you can't really expect them to. They're very small, and they concentrate on getting their books released each week. They release, I think, a couple of books every week, and that's what their focus is on. And I mean, nobody does any PR for you to speak of. They have a shared cost program for publicity, but there's only so much you can spend. I mean, how big is anyone's budget? You have to learn how to do all those things yourself, in my opinion. I am certainly not going to hire anybody.
Well, even the big publishers in New York are, if they sign you, they say you got to hire your own publicist, because they've cut back down too. So,
Oh, yeah.
And where there used to be 5, 6, 7 editors, there's one, and one assistant. And I don't know how they keep up, because I know how many books I get. And I think at one time, I think the publisher of Random House told me they were getting something like 3,000 books a day.
Oh, that's incredible.
Well, there's about 1 million books published every year,
Yeah.
and 350,000 by publishers, and the rest, I guess, self-publishing. But I heard that the big publishers, they sign with the authors knowing that those books will sell million copies.
Yes.
Because there's a difference between the quality of the book and popularity of the book.
Oh,
There is a
yes.
difference.
Yes, indeed.
So they know that it's gonna, that's why agents or whatever, they talk about upmarket, a kind of books, commercial, but literary. And but I think I heard somewhere or read somewhere, the big publishers will pick up highly literary books. Those are the ones that will be nominated for Pulitzer and National Book Award and so forth, knowing that they will not make money off of it, because they make money off of the other popular books, like, Michelle Obama's book, for example, Obama's book, they will sell millions. They know that, right?
Right.
It doesn't really have that high, I read it, I'm very married to it, but they know it's well-known figure. So they kind of, the big corporations, big companies, I think, can afford to lose money. But I have a Facebook friend who had a publisher, big publisher, and they were supposed to be the most anticipated books, and they did a lot of PR and all of that. Well, she didn't end up making it. She didn't. The publisher did not recover the money that they put out. So they will not touch her books.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's the reality.
Yeah.
And that's
and there is also, books that go on the auction block, right? So they get a lot of advance, like $1 million, several $1 million advance. If the book doesn't recover and the publisher doesn't recover the money, they won't touch that author again. I mean,
That's
there's
right.
a lot of things that authors have to wade through. It's a hard business. And then if I hear my publisher's side, I mean, it's a small publishing company, Medville, and it really puts out good quality books, but it doesn't have any resources.
Right.
And
Just passion. Kim Davis has passion.
yeah. She used to work at it at the university. She likes that. This is what she
Yeah.
wanted to do. From the writer's point of view, the business side of it is that Ingram doesn't give, the booksellers, they get 40% discount, right? That's what they make. And that's what they need, the minimum. And if you're not a big publishing company, then Ingram will not give that to the bookstores. So they will not shelf your books.
Right.
Because they don't make enough money off of it. There are all kinds of things happening out there.
Yeah, the publishing industry has a lot of problems. And that's
Yeah.
why people are going with small presses and going indie.
Yeah.
And I don't like to write books that are like trendy, like of the moment. Like, remember, there was a whole string of books that came out with girl in the title, and girl this, girl that. I don't like to jump on any kind of trends. I like to tell a story that will still be as relevant in 20 years. You could read my book in 20 years and you're still going to go back to the 60s and 70s. And nothing in that book is like time stamped to be contradicted by current events. It won't be affected by current events.
It's true. The trend right now is the books are the something, the futurist, the vintner's daughter, the time traveler's wife. I mean, you know, just And I think I look for the books that tell the story that I haven't heard before, because as many years, I mean, I've been doing the book club for 22 years, but I've been reading my whole life. And I go, I've heard this story before. You know, do you ever read a book?
Oh, how about how many stories are girls that have gone for their summer in Europe and met a handsome Frenchman and had an affair? I mean, I'm sorry. Been done. Not interested.
There's a million World War II novels right now. I mean, you know, it's just like, and just like I got both the Chanel books the same time, but I picked one for 2020 and one for 2021. They were both great books, but you know, you hate to put, they were different perspectives, but you know, Girl with a Pearl Earring, they had two books come out the same time. It's weird that way.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got so many books about the pack mule, you know, horse librarians, and you know, there's trends out there, but I do believe you're absolutely right, Joanne. If you write a good story like To Kill a Mockingbird, it's going to be just as good today as, you know, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. I mean, how many remakes have we seen of, you know, all the Jane Austen books to film? So, and in the same way, I'm the same way with film. I look for a story I haven't heard before. And
Yeah.
I tell you, every story that they put in the theaters today has been done to death. I do not like American theater right now, except my daughter took me to see the new Sandra Bullock movie with Channing Tatum. That was hysterical. If you want a great fun time, go see The Lost City. That was just, and it's about a romance writer. And Channing Tatum plays the guy on the cover with the Fabio, you know, the topaz. But don't judge a book by its cover. It's
Isn't
really,
this Romancing the Stone?
yes.
I love it.
But let me tell you
Love it.
what, they updated it, and it's but it is very much like Romancing the Stone.
Oh,
And I
good.
love that movie too. But you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
we haven't had all the movies I've seen on the Academy Awards were just so disturbing and sad. I was depressed for months after watching all the movies. And so, you know, that's why I went Bollywood. That's why I watch all the Bollywood films. And but
Well, that's
anyway,
partly why we changed the name from Prose in the Pandemic. I was just done with the pandemic. I am done with it.
I didn't
And
realize you changed the name. What are you calling yourself now?
books live, wait, now I forgot.
Live forever.
Book lives forever. Books live forever.
Thank
Books
you.
don't go out of books don't go out of print. No, what am I saying? Books don't have an expiration date.
They don't. They're the gift that keeps on giving. So good for you. I missed that, but it's been a crazy time for me. But yeah, I think we're all done with COVID and pandemic, and everybody's ready to move on, but we're almost there, not quite. But anyway, well, this is all fascinating. And we do a writers club, Joanne. And this Saturday we've got, oh gosh, who do we have this Saturday? Judith
Yeah.
Tettleman.
Oh, yeah.
Is going to be, we do our authors mentor to authors. Wandra's done one for us. Eileen, you've done one for us. But we ask all our authors if you wouldn't mind sharing your process or doing a workshop. But we've got Judith this month, and then for June, we're going to have Alice Early. So I'm really excited about that because she has a really neat writing process. So, and that's the second Saturday of every month at 10 o'clock. So we've got that coming up this weekend. I'm excited about that. And for those that don't know, I moved the book and film club to once a month on Thursday nights, the first Thursday of the month, because I just, with Robert on tour and Ruthie's been gone, you know, it's just been me talking to myself, and I thought I got to get it where more people show up. So I'm gonna do
The
it.
thing is this, I have Twitter account and whatever, the other one, but I exclusively use Facebook. Even then, it takes so much time. I just cut a lot of, I mean, this is not the only thing I do. I constantly meet
Right.
friends and I have lunches with them. I go to meetings with them. I belong to organizations and all these things I have to do, and I make connections or what have you. So I cut down quite a bit on Facebook and Zoom, you know. So I try to show up like Judith. I have talked with her directly on the phone, and we have some, you know, history. So I will show up for her, just like Joanne. It was important for me to show up because I know her. So that's about all I can do, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 24 hours and I don't even sleep that much, to be honest.
Oh, Eileen had to go, you guys. I guess we're over time. So,
Yeah.
well, we're going to continue tomorrow with your blog. So you're going to have blogging all this week, and we're looking forward to it. So this is recorded. So everybody check out this book, Just One Look, by Joanne Kukanza Easley. And she's got a third book coming out. Check out her first one. Read all about it. It's a real page turner. And I love your covers. You know, I love it
Thank
when
you.
paintings are used as, in fact, my next book is going to be, I'm going to do the art for my next book too. So anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll let you have your evening back with your little dogs and your husband. And any last words you want to share with our listening audience?
I just want to thank you for choosing my book. It was a very great honor, and it was really fun chatting with everybody tonight. Thank you very much.
Well,
Good
thank
luck to
you.
you.
And
Good luck with your next book.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you,
luck.
James.
And new adventure.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'll be a lot of fun. You can actually get a publisher booth at Book Expo.
Yes.
That's true. And just
that's
pick up your books.
It's expensive, but hey, I think more and more authors are going to be doing this. So
I do too.
anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Jim, Wandra. Eileen's gone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Downloaded, and it'll be up sometime later tonight, and I'll share it.
Okay.
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 So
Thanks.
much.
Okay,
Good night.
bye. Thank you, Joanne. Bye.
Thank you.